was on the trail in Iowa not long ago, but he's no politician. He's looking for diamonds in the rough. With Lee Cowan, meet American picker Mike Wolfe.
American Pickers went from one of television's biggest reality shows to a franchise many fans barely recognize today. For years, millions tuned in weekly to watch Mike Wolfe, Frank Fritz, and the team turn forgotten junk into treasure. But behind the scenes, controversies, personal fallout, health struggles, and shocking incidents slowly began tearing the show apart. The decline didn't happen overnight. It was built piece by piece through years of tension and turmoil. So what really caused the collapse of American Pickers? And did a rumored betrayal and near-fatal accident push the series past the point of recovery? Join us as we uncover the real reasons behind the fall of American Pickers.
If someone would throw out a bike, what else would they throw out? So that's why I started digging in the garbage constantly. Even if it wasn't a big garbage day, I was always in the trash cans and stuff.
The ignition point of American Pickers. It used to be that show people fell back on. It was their go-to entertainment spot, and the fans of that genre loved it more than anything else. One could say it was like the euphoria of its time. Even though it was released weekly, it made such waves that it was rewatched time and time again before the next update. At least this is the way it was before the franchise started taking jabs from here and there. The American Pickers community has now seen a significant decline. The beloved chemistry that fans craved has been fractured, and as a result, ratings have plummeted from over 5 million to under 1 million. They woke up one day to find out that their beloved trio of Frank Fritz, Mike Wolfe, and Danielle Colby was missing one of its founding pillars. An episode aired, and suddenly, they couldn't find Frank Fritz in any of the shots. Even when they rushed social media platforms in search of an answer, they got nothing in return. Without the original trio, the show started to feel generic and ordinary. It started lacking the charm of its peak era. Now, it struggles with so much from fan migration and a loss of cultural relevance. When looking at the roots of this story, no one could have imagined it would have taken such a route. When American Pickers hit screens in 2010, it brought something fresh. Instead of the usual scripted drama, it was all about unfiltered coverage of real personalities, digging through barns and sheds for forgotten treasures. Mike Wolfe, the creator, had a vision to showcase real people and real finds with a touch of American history.
From antique to unique, American Pickers Mike Wolfe is a renowned collector with a special passion for two-wheeled rides.
The show gave viewers a peek into small towns and back roads that were rarely seen on TV at the time. The magic started with a setup of two guys in a van traveling across the country looking for rusty gold. Viewers watched them enter cluttered barns, crawl through cobwebs, and uncover things that looked like junk. Each pick felt like it was an intentionally manufactured experience meant to pull people in. And that is exactly what it did. Whether it was an old gas sign or a 1930s bike, every item felt connected to someone's past. Mike Wolfe, who was always interested and enthusiastic, was the show's voice and face. Frank Fritz kept him in check with his sense of humor and eye for interesting little things. Danielle Colby brought grit from the office and helped plan picks and run the shops. Three friends were in charge of breathing life into television, and that was exactly what they did. The show's main draw was memories. It made older watchers remember things and made younger viewers want to know more. People saw parts of their childhood homes, their grandparents' homes, or historical sites in their area come back to life. It also honored the ideals of the working class, like honesty, hard work, and respect for the past. The 3 to 5 million people who watched the episodes weekly weren't just for show. Mike's shop, Antique Archaeology, also became a popular tourist destination. There were tons of clips, reviews, and fan exchanges on social media. The name grew to include so much more than Mike had originally planned. As the years went by, this success reached new heights and unfathomable levels. It was no wonder that Frank Fritz's death led to these achievements plummeting. But how?
Reality TV star and Quad Cities native Frank Fritz passed away last night. His American Pickers co-star Mike Wolfe paying tribute to his longtime friend on social media, calling him a dreamer who was just as sensitive as he was funny.
A crack in the foundation. Frank and Mike weren't just co-stars, they were also longtime friends who shared back roads, junkyards, and greasy diners across America. But by season 21, something started feeling off. And in the end, it all led to Frank vanishing. Mike and the show's executives decided to keep quiet on this disappearance, but Frank eventually emerged and pointed fingers at them, saying they were the cause of his sudden disassociation from anything relating to American Pickers. Yes, Frank had started disconnecting from the show. And again, when fans asked what was going on, they were left with no answer. And it was left to Frank to come out again and attempt to clear his name. Frank claimed the show had started showing huge signs of some sort of power struggle as the episodes progressed. He claimed it had become tilted towards Mike at an angle of over 1,000%. According to him, he was now treated as the number 2 man, despite being a childhood friend and co-creator of the show's chemistry. Things only got worse after Frank left for a major back surgery in 2020. Regardless of whatever strain their friendship was under, he felt they were close enough to set aside any differences in the face of tragedies such as health problems. And at such a difficult point in his life and career, he expected Mike Wolfe to understand this too. But unfortunately, he was mistaken. According to him, Mike never called him to check on his recovery. He didn't bother to reach him through intermediaries or even use roundabout methods to check on his recovery. This silence, after 40 years of friendship, hurt Frank so much that he chose not to keep their feud private anymore. He took to social media and voiced his pain. It didn't end there. He also never declined an offer to speak on their differences in interviews. He was a fan favorite, and it didn't take long before they took his side. Many fans explicitly stated they would boycott the show until Frank was reinstated as who he was meant to be, and not as who Mike had started making him out to be. This created an obvious divide in the fan base and a fracture. Mike Wolfe became a target of intense online criticism, with many viewers labeling him self-centered and accusing him of pushing Frank out to gain more control over the brand. In light of all the cyber attacks he faced, Mike eventually released a brief statement saying he wished Frank the best and hoped he would recover fully. But it wasn't enough. To the fans who had been going at him, this statement felt cold, like a business email rather than a personal, heartfelt message to a loved one in pain. Social media exploded with anger. By this time, Frank had already been phased out of television appearances, and even though it was mainly due to surgery, there were still attacks raining on Mike. Who was in the wrong? Frank's increased substance intake wasn't even his fault. As tensions rose, Mike also decided to go out of character and voice out his frustration.
I can remember the first time I seen one of these. I was 14 years old. There was a guy down the street that had one. I think this car going down the road would be 42 to 47,000. I'd be in at 37,000.
A break in the foundation. He revealed that one of his reasons for not reaching out to Frank about a TV return was his post-surgery issues. He claimed that his silence was caused by Frank's struggle with addiction, specifically opioid issues and alcoholism, which came as unwanted companions due to the weight of his surgery. Mike claimed he and the network were trying to help Frank get right before they could give him the green flag to return to filming. On hearing this, Frank doubled down. He went on to publicly accuse Mike of plotting to replace him with Mike's brother, Robbie Wolfe, and that all these were just excuses. If the two of them were at war, what about Danielle? What did she have to say about it? The focus turned to Danielle Colby when she was asked questions about the split. She seemed to side with Mike. Even though she only said a few words, her stance was clear. And even though she decided to remain silent, it only raised more questions. Some fans felt she betrayed Frank. Others believed she was just doing her job and staying out of drama. After Frank's exit, something changed on screen. The show lost its natural flow. The back-and-forth energy that made it fun to watch was gone. Even though Frank was just a co-host, he was the soul of the show. He had a rough charm and brought balance to Mike's polished delivery. Without him, the show leaned too much in one direction. It became less about friendship and more about business. Even loyal fans admitted it felt like something was missing. The fun, easygoing road trips felt more scripted without him. Some bitter fans allegedly even accused the producers of covering up the real story. Meanwhile, Frank continued to deal with serious health problems, and in the end, it became practically impossible for him to return to the spotlight. But, on the bright side, and despite the harsh public words, the two officially mended their bond in May 2023 during an emotional reunion. And eventually, when Frank suffered a stroke and passed away in September 2024,
American Picker star Frank Fritz has died at the age of 60 after suffering a devastating stroke 2 years ago.
Mike was reportedly by his side, emphasizing that they ultimately loved each other like brothers till the end. After his death, the History Channel aired memorial title cards during the season 26 premiere and continued to show them at the top of some episodes throughout the season. They also aired multiple marathons of Frank's best episodes in October 2024 to celebrate his decade-long legacy on the show. Then they released a joint statement calling Frank a beloved family member and a bearded charmer who would be deeply missed. Mike Wolfe then went on to publicly state that he dedicated the entire new season to Frank's honor. He has also been seen in interviews, visibly emotional, describing Frank as a dreamer who was critical to the show's success over 15 years. Danielle Colby and Robbie Wolfe both shared heartfelt public tributes, commending Frank's sense of humor and infectious laughter. The irony was that they thought this could remedy the situation completely. But what was done, and it only went downhill from there.
American Picker star Frank Fritz has died. His longtime co-star and friend Mike Wolfe confirmed his death on Instagram. No cause of death details for now.
The corporate eclipse. After Frank's departure, the network did all they could to boost viewership stats again, but it just didn't seem to work out. As the years passed, production for American Pickers grew more expensive. Long road trips, expert appraisals, and antique storage all added up. Executive producers reportedly began raising concerns about the cost of keeping the show running. Because of this, the network began comparing the show's performance with newer content that was cheaper and faster to produce. The History Channel slowly started shifting its focus. Instead of old-school reality formats, they decided to lean into mini-docs and spin-offs like Pawn Stars Do America. These shows required less travel, fewer cast members, and quicker edits. That made them easier on the budget and faster to produce. Despite American Pickers maintaining a substantial presence on television, it wasn't enough for these decision-makers who loved chasing trends. On the other hand, Mike Wolfe reportedly wanted to stick to the original vision. He preferred the long drives he used to take with Frank to forgotten towns where they would just sit and converse with people who had real stories behind their junk. When the plot change bill was finally approved, it drew significant backlash. A particular section of fans reportedly took to social media. questioning what they were watching. According to them, there was no chemistry between the new cast, and their lack of real picking experience was obvious. They didn't connect with people the way Mike and Frank had. Due to this backlash and the failure of the new idea to bring them back to their glory days, executives allegedly had to scrap the reboot and shelve any future ideas of getting a younger replacement team without the chemistry the fans needed. From there, American Pickers was downgraded internally. The network no longer treated it as a headline show. There was no more aggressive marketing or big episode promos. It was quietly moved around in the schedule with fewer reruns and special events. It stopped getting spotlight space on the History Channel website and social media. It was obvious the network was having difficulty finding a successor with Frank's temperament. And upon this realization, the fan base grew impatient as the days went by.
To most people, the stuff he collects looks like old junk. But what Mike sees are mechanical time capsules, each unlocking a portal to our history.
Chronicles of a medieval franchise in a modern age. Another behind-the-scenes issue involved sponsorship. As ad dollars tightened across networks, PR companies looked to promote more modern-leaning content. Shows with long run times and slower pacing no longer attracted the same advertisers. American Pickers used to pull in a lot of strong brand deals, but because of this, those deals shrank year by year. That meant less funding to keep production at a high level, even as prices rose daily. As newer shows drew bigger social media audiences, American Pickers struggled to adapt. Its older audience wasn't as active online and didn't consistently follow them on social media. And the younger crowd never fully grew to match the size of the crowd among older people. This digital gap made it harder for them to stay visible in an age where content trends were the meta. Even clips posted to YouTube didn't draw big numbers like those of other shows from the same network. The buzz just wasn't there anymore. And this wasn't all. It caused a ripple effect, and another issue arose somewhere else. Another issue was fatigue. After more than a decade, the show's formula started to wear thin, even for loyal viewers. The hunts started feeling predictable, the deals less exciting, and the finds just didn't have the same wow factor. That repetition made the show feel stale, even when production tried to freshen it up. Over time, fans started drifting toward other series with new personalities and fresh stories. And as time went by, they got impatient and started fueling rumors. One new rumor storyline that surfaced involved a fantasy licensing dispute. In these rumors, they claimed the History Channel and Mike's production company disagreed over sharing profits made from merchandise. Items like branded t-shirts, books, and antique replicas were a growing market. And since they needed to raise extra cash, they quickly decided to enter it. But according to them, something happened, and the profits weren't shared evenly, leading to additional tension off-camera. Although this was never confirmed by the History Channel or Mike publicly, several media leaks posted by theorists hinted at business trouble on the side. Right now, Mike Wolfe must be wishing that these rumors were the end of his problems, because just a month after, he suffered something so harsh, it might have reunited him with Frank Fritz. Columbia's life-changing collision. On the evening of September 12, 2025, Mike Wolfe and Letitia Klein were driving a 1958 vintage Porsche in Columbia, Tennessee. At that time of the year, it was unusual for them to be in Columbia. But they were there because Mike had spent years and millions of dollars revitalizing the small town as a major personal and business passion project. But the problem wasn't even why they were in Columbia. It was because they were on the same road as a drunk driver. As they were driving, an SUV suddenly pulled out in front of them. Because the vintage car lacked modern safety features like airbags, Mike braced for impact by gripping the steering wheel so hard it broke under the force of his body. His girlfriend, Letitia, later noted that Wolfe's quick reaction likely saved him from being impaled by the steering column. They both suffered high-degree injuries, with Letitia sustaining the brunt of the impact because of how Mike attempted to swerve. She was airlifted to Vanderbilt Medical Center in critical condition, while Mike followed behind in an ambulance, drifting in and out of consciousness. Mike was eventually released from the hospital within 24 hours, while Letitia was hospitalized for 5 whole days and still had to go back for numerous follow-up procedures. The other driver involved was reportedly charged with vehicular assault, leading to ongoing legal proceedings for the couple. In a recent interview with People in 2026, Mike Wolfe opened up about the ordeal that changed him forever. It was a reasonable statement since this tragedy followed closely after the death of Frank Fritz and Mike's decision to close his Nashville store. He decided to officially close his antique archaeology store in Nashville, Tennessee, on April 27, 2025, after nearly 15 years in operation. The closure marked a significant turning point for the American Pickers star, driven by a desire for a new rhythm and a major shift in his personal priorities. He stated that he wanted to spend more time in his hometown of LeClaire and to be closer to his 81-year-old mother and his young daughter. The closure of the Antique Archaeology Nashville store in April 2025 didn't even settle independently. It sparked widespread speculation that Mike Wolfe was leaving the industry entirely. As fans initially feared the closure was due to financial failure or a sudden fallout within the cast. And they still ask, where is American Pickers right now? The answer is simple. The show is currently in an extended hiatus, and while some cast members, including Danielle Colby, have sparked rumors that the show is done, the History Channel and Mike Wolfe have confirmed it is not canceled. Who do you think was the villain in this story? And if you were Danielle, whose side would you pick? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.